Michael DeSilva from Love FM and from DeSilva's Media. Today's news part two for April 24th, this will probably go out on the 25th of April for tonight. I want to tell you there's a possible drills going on in Tennessee and in California and in different parts of the country of the United States where they're going to be doing drills demonstrating a possible scenario of a prolonged long time period without power or electricity. Like a long-term power outage may be expected in the upcoming future by some event, maybe an EMP, the explosion, or some other type of disastrous event that could cause a lot of people to be without electricity. And of course this stuff has leaked out in papers, military papers and other government sources out on the regular web. Now, why would all these people be talking about this stuff if there wasn't a foreseeable thing? What I've noticed as knowing about the military and being in the military family, that the military and the government don't talk about stuff unless they are going to happen in the future. And they love to talk about stuff. It's sort of like bare naked in front of you. It's dead right in your sight. And that's kind of what they're doing here. And of course the military will say, well, Mr. Sills, this is just routine test and drill procedures that we normally do just to keep up with systems just in case something happens. Well, when you have other papers leaking this out, it's out on the web. There are government and military papers and other papers. This cannot be a coincidence or just a drill out of the blue. I don't buy that. Because there's other sources that have mentioned this outage. In other news, so be aware of that, folks. Stock up on food, stock up on water, and stock up on supplies for about 6 months or more, and medicine. And make sure you invest in gold and silver and other precious commodities of metals and so forth. So money does not work. The dollar doesn't work because the banks are crashed and the economy's crashed. Because they just said recently that other countries were going to do stuff to our economy just a couple of weeks ago, last week and the week before. If things don't go their way, they're going to do something to our economy, and they're going to attack our power infrastructure. So this stuff has been mentioned over and over again, not just last week, or 2 weeks ago, but it's been mentioned over and over again throughout the decades and all. But they've been mentioning a lot more this year. Now, it's like Bilderberg meeting. You know, I always say build a turd because all they do is discuss about plans on how to monopolize the world, really, and take away and rob resources by creating artificial scarcities. You know, like the newest thing is these crazy people that are blocking out the sun. Now, you say, what are you talking about, Michael? The sun's not blocked. The sun still hits the earth. I said, but the rays are being blocked, meaning they're being reflected back out to space. The sun may be hitting the earth, but you're not getting the full benefit of the sun. And like if you try to grow food or something, it won't grow right because it's not getting all the vitamins that it needs from the sun, that the sun produces naturally by the reaction that happens in the chlorophyll of the plants that actually makes food for the plants so they can grow and have nutrients, not just from the soil, but also from the sun's, thermal reaction once it hits the chlorophyll in the plants. So the thing is, some people feel like this may be a way that they're going to try to starve a lot of people out. They're going to create a lot of artificial scarcities and drive up the prices of everything that you buy to where it's so high and not affordable. I mean, we got people working 2 and 3 jobs just to have an apartment today. I was talking to a lovely girl by the name of Michelle that I've been talking to down at the store where I walk to sometimes. And she was telling me that she has to work 3 jobs just to keep her house. And she's not even married. And that may be part of the problem why she has to work so hard. If she had a husband and she was married, it may not be so hard if she gets the right one. But maybe she's just had a lot of bad experiences and maybe she just wants to be open with herself, be a single mother, and work, but then just have a free life so she can just move on from one man to the next when she gets tired of him, or just wants to dissolve the relationship for some reason because she don't want to really commit because she's too scared to commit, like a lot of women and men out here are. They just rather, have their goal or be married to their job or career, or they just don't really want to have a family. They just rather be open, because either, some cases they may be lesbian because that's how a lot of lesbians do it. They don't want to get married because they want to have an open life where they can just be with whoever they want to be, whenever they want to be, and they're bisexual. or they're straight, but they just are too afraid to commit because they're afraid that they're going to be enslaved into a relationship. And a relationship, when you're with somebody that loves you and truly does, it's not a slavery relationship at all. It's just that many people read a lot of this stuff and watch a lot of things on TV, and I think that's where a lot of people pull all this psycho babble from, because it's not true. That doesn't mean what happened with these other people that necessarily essentially is going to happen to you, because you're a different person. You come with a whole different set of parameters, and you're in a different situation. So you can't base your experience or other people's experiences on what you'll have, because only you can make the most out of that experience. And if you know the person and you know they're nice and you marry them, they're not going to change. Now, a lot of people will say, well, they change. There's some people that do change when you marry them, like the controlling, codependent types. They change. They may put on a front and look all nice and try to woo your children, but then once they marry, then the mask comes off, and then you realize you're in an abusive and in an overprotective relationship. And that's not love. That's not love at all. If any of you men or women are in this type of relationship, that's abuse. That's degrading. That's not what Jesus said what constitutes a marriage between a man and a woman. A marriage is supposed to be equal in both sex and gender orientation. A marriage is supposed to be where everybody works together as a united front. So if you have children, they're all working with you as together. Or if you're a couple before you have children, and a marital relationship. God instituted, so therefore love is always a substantial part of that relationship. But also God also is a part of it. And a lot of marriages out here God is not a part of. That's why there are a lot of problems in them, more so now, because God was never a part of that union. Even though people go to church and claim they're a Christian and do all the things like a Christian does, they're not living their life right. And they're not acting right. They're cursing, they're drinking, they're messing around with other women, they're having pornography issues, they're taking drugs that they shouldn't be taking. I mean, they're cheating on their spouse. This is not what you do when you're in a marriage that's fruitful, because if it's fruitful, you don't need to be out there looking at other fruit that's bad, because it's not blessed by God, and you won't be blessed by doing that either. And besides, you should only stay with the wife you're with for the rest of your life. Unless she dies or you die, then if she dies and the wife can move on and marry someone else, or if there's unfaithfulness, you can get out of there. If there's abusive behavior going on, like beating and violence, you can get out of that relationship too. But other than that, outside of those things, if you need to stay married to your mate who you said I love you to, because that is what you swore to God in front of God, and it's the agreement that you held sacred. And no matter what happens, you always love that person. If you promise yourself to a person, you need to stick to that promise. Just like the person who promised you themselves, they're sticking to that promise, Because anytime you make a promise with somebody, that promise you keep. Because if you really love a person, there won't be no boundaries when it comes to age, when you are the appropriate age. There won't be no issues about that. However, some parents may not like it, but when you get to be 18, you can make your decision on your own, because you are a legal voting adult, and you have the right to make that decision. Nobody can take that right from you, unless you're mentally incompetent, which most people are not. So in most situations, parents has no right to try to contest who you want to marry, even if they're much older than you, or in your case, are much younger than you, as long as they're 18 years old or plus, unless you're in a state where you can marry someone at 16 years old, because some states it's younger. You can marry someone that is 16, because that's like being 18 here in Virginia, and you can marry someone at that age if you really love each other and you really have true love with each other. And age is just a number when you're at the legal voting age. And that's really what the law does say and state by definition. So, if you really love someone, you don't ever go back on your promises. When I make a promise to someone, or when I say I'm going to do something, I follow it to the letter, because that's the way I've always have been, because I'm a Boy Scout, and Scouts always stick to what they say, just like a soldier does. And that's the way I've always been and always will be. And if I know this is a sure thing, and I know there's a promise, I'm going to fulfill that promise because I love that person, or I made that promise with the person for a commitment. I'm going to follow through with that job commitment. If it's a job situation, if it's a church situation, I'm going to stay true to that. Stay true to that promise as much as possibly humanly that I can, because I really want to. I really want to do this thing that I promised that I would do, because it really means a lot to me, more than anything in the world, because I made the promise, and I'm a kind of person that follows through with what I say, if I'm able to humanly. That's if God doesn't make me ill or anything, or some unforeseen thing happens, which I hope doesn't happen. But usually when I make a promise, I stick to it, usually most, like 98% of the time. So I'm hoping that anybody that's made you a promise is that genuine to you, and that they stick to it and not allow the rumors and what other people say to try to change your mind or change how you feel, or try to put ideas or notions in your head because they're scared and they don't understand what's going on in some situations. Like if you married somebody that's a lot older than you, or if you're married someone that is 18, they don't understand it, so everybody freaks out. But that's your decision. What if that's what's happening here? But that's not anyone else's to make that decision when you become that age. That's your decision, not anyone else's. So just remember that. Promises, you always keep whatever they are, even if it's not a relationship promise. It could be a career promise. It could be a character promise. It could be a commitment you made with God. If you made a promise with God that you were not going to do something, and you said you weren't going to do it, then you don't fall back and do it. If you make an agreement with anyone, you follow through. As long as the motives of that agreement are pure and honest, and that everything is right about it and righteous about it, like God would be. I mean, if you're involved in a rumor situation with people that are lying on a person because they don't like them, because people have spread a bunch of false rumors about this person, and you're in it because somebody tried to persuade you to think and change your mind about how you feel about this person, when yet they haven't really done truly anything to anyone that are of any kind to really prove or substantiate what they're saying to be true or liable, then you should probably not get into that agreement, because they lied and they tried to sucker you in, and that may be why they want you to be a witness, or may want you to go along with their scam, because they're all liars and they want you to go along with it so that they have credibility. Or at least they think they have credibility. But if you're lying about it, then you have to answer that before God. If somebody's been really nice to you and has always done good things to you, and then you go turn your back on them, that's just being a hypocrite. And then also in the eyes of God, you're not really being a Christian either, because you're following what all these other people that that are lying, and you're following in their footsteps because you're agreeing with what they're saying is right and true, and it's not right or true. Especially if you're outside in the hallway and you've seen the way that person act, and you know that person didn't threaten that person, but yet you were out there the whole time, and you go along with it, you're lying too, because you know that person didn't threaten that person, because they didn't, and you're just sitting there taking up and making up and going along with the crowd, just to get along, kind of thing, so nothing happens to you after the person's evicted for unlawful means. You're just signing away and just not being a Christian, because that's not what Christians do. If they're real Christians, they're true. They don't do that. Someone lies, you stand up for that person, especially when they stood up for you and saved you from a horrible thing that could have happened to you, and yet you were saved because of them keeping them away from your residence. And you hear all the stuff. You hear what the neighbors say, and then they try to pull you in onto it, and they're lying. You already know that. It's like it's like she told me. She said, well, I don't pay attention to what they say, Michael. I hear what they say, but I really don't care about what they say, because I know it's all gossip and it's not true, and I don't even listen to any of it, even though they try to tell me about it anyway. At least that's what she said to me. But like I said, we know who the two witnesses are. We know Patricia is one, and Patricia Tyler is one, and Miriam Tate is the other witness. They were seen outside of the office on Monday discussing things, and she was telling her, and she couldn't control herself. She was telling everybody about what happened at the courthouse, because she was there, the gossiper of them all, even though they try to say I'm the gossiper. When she's over there gossiping to about 5 or 6 people here in the complex, which is happen to be some of the people that are in this clique that I keep talking about. There's 12 people that are in this clique, and there were about 5 or 6 of them out there on Monday, out there in front of the office all discussing about it. And Patricia was the one leading the conversation like a bird cackling, just telling everybody about everything, because she was the one that was there at the court thing on Monday. And nobody else showed up. The manager wasn't there. And the property manager wasn't there. That's what I mean. And even Barbara wasn't there. So, but I guess they don't feel like they have to come until the actual court, hearing. So I don't know why Patricia was there, because she didn't have to come either, but she was there, I guess, just to gossip, because that's what she likes to do best. And she was doing that majorly on Monday outside of the office. But anyway, other news stories just to tell you about. We wanted to let you know that we need to be in prayer for this country. We know there's an attack on Christianity and an attack on the family and on the home. And we know there's an attack on Christian values too, all of it. Right now it's being waged. A lot of people are attacking Christians a lot in this country. And of course we know in the world that a lot of Christians are being falsely persecuted for what they believe and what they know to be true. And that people were willing to lie about a person and make up things, and falsify things because they don't like the person because they are simply a Christian. Now, it's just known that people, when they're different faiths like Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, they don't like Christians and they can't stand them. So if they know you're a Christian, like if you're a Baptist and you're a Christian, they're not going to get along with you because they don't stand it, because they consider you an outsider or an infidel. And they won't really talk to you. Once they find out how you are, they don't talk to you. And that's the way some people act around here who are Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's why they act that way. And, a lot of these rumors and everything are being propagated towards a person in here. It's probably because of that reason. Because they know that person's a Christian and they don't like it and they want to get me out of here. Another thing is that they've been spreading these rumors saying that I'm a sexual predator. And that's been going on since I moved in here, and there's no truth to any of that. But it's been spread around and disseminated throughout the whole apartment complex, because it wasn't YouTube that did that. No, that's been going on before they knew about YouTube. And the reason why Barbara moved, Barbara Poe, who lived across the hallway from me, moved was not because of me that made her living so horrible like she tells everybody, and like the lawyer and all are trying to fight in court about, which is a lie from hell, No, the real truth why she moved is because she needed a downstairs apartment. And the real truth of the matter is that she was on a list and her name came up, and that's why she moved. And the weird thing is if nothing else was said, then why in the hell am I being evicted from here? Because if she was moving over to the other side, then I should still be able to stay here, right? Because normally that should be the case, right? Yes, that would be the case. So something else more was said, and I think it has something to do with what I was saying about being a sex predator, and I think that's what, and it's stuff that they told the landlord that was not true, and she believes them, and that's why this has happened. Believes, when I say them, I mean Barbara Poe and Patricia Tyler, and Marion might have had something to do with that too. I don't know. But they all got together in their little convenient little huddle. They were all out there, on Monday doing their little football huddle, talking and whispering secrets to each other, out there in front of the office, talking about what happened in trial and talking about me. And the way that people think is that I already left. Now, how did everybody know that I was evicted in the first place? Because how did that news get out? So did the landlord tell everybody I was evicted? Or did Patricia Tyler and Barbara Poe tell everybody? Because I didn't tell everybody, and I sure didn't announce it on YouTube until now. So how do they know that I was evicted? Because I haven't been evicted yet. And they're out here thinking that I'm already left, but I'm still here. So if I already left, then why am I still here? That's the part I don't understand. So how are they going on the first eviction, and why is it being spread around, disseminated anyway? And how the world did it get around? So somebody out here told everybody. And how do they know about it? Probably because of talking to Janine, and probably they just spread it around. Because it's like a ghetto here. Everybody just talks about everybody's business. That's probably how. But I'll leave that up to you to decide. This is the news. Michael DeSilvas with more news coming up. Stay tuned.